Swamigal, known to all of us as Parmacharya. I was brought up in a convent school in Delhi. And then after my master's degree, I went to America. And there I got my PhD, I became a professor at a very well-known university called Harvard. And I was there for 10 years. And I was literally brought up in the European tradition of convent schools, and then of course America was also Western culture. And I knew very little about, except what my mother taught me about Hinduism. I knew very little about our saints, our history and so on. One day, one of my Indian students at Harvard invited me for having tea in the students' dormitory. So I went to his room first, and there I saw a picture of Parmacharya. This student actually was not an ordinary student, he was an IAS officer. And he's being an IAS officer, the government of India to send them to Harvard and some of these American universities for updating their knowledge. And he had been sent to update his knowledge on economics, so which is what I was a professor of, so he was taking my courses. So I asked him, who is this? So he gave me the name and said he is a great saint. That's all that conversation took place. But that photograph stuck in my mind. I don't know why at that stage, and now I know. During the emergency, I had decided to rattle Mrs. Gandhi. So I was abroad at that time and escaped abroad. Mrs. Gandhi filed 18 cases on me. She even got an Interpol notice issued against me and an arrest warrant, declared me proclaimed offender, even put a reward on my head which was at that time the highest in the history of India. So I decided that I must teach her a lesson. So what shall I do? Because everything had become silent in India. I'm now talking about 1976. So I decided that somehow I'll enter India, then enter Parliament, and after signing the register, I'll make a short speech which will go on the record, and then escape. Now, all my colleagues thought it was a crazy idea. How can you do that? So I don't know, it came to my mind, I must do it. So I set about, it's a long story how I did it, but I came back to India and I managed to come out of the airport undetected. And then I entered Parliament on the day, it was 2-3 days later, Parliament was opening, I went. Of course, they recognized me, the people at the gate, the policemen, the watch and ward staff, but they could not stop me. So I went into the house and I timed it in such a way that time that was Rajya Sabha at that stage. Later on it came to Lok Sabha. Rajya Sabha, the Vice President of India, B.D. Chatti, was reading the obituary list. And I arrived just as I was reading the last name. And I made a point of order that you are reading the obituary list, but during the intercession period, democracy has also died. You should include that also in the obituary. Now, everybody was shocked to see me. How did these come? And meantime, the Vice President said, everybody will stand for 2 minutes silence. So I stood up. I took that opportunity when everybody stood up to leave Parliament and then raced to the railway station and then finally ended up in Nepal and caught a flight back to America. And that was the end of Mrs. Gandhi's credibility. All international newspapers had this story, how she says that she's in control of the country, but here's a man who's got an arrest warrant in his name, and he's coming in and going out. And then Mrs. Gandhi later on told me when she returned back to power that that was the day she decided to have elections, which she lost. Now I'm telling you this story, it is connected with Parmacharya in two ways. When I boarded the flight in America and the flight landed in New Delhi, and I was sure, everybody said you'll be arrested without doubt. When I landed, when the flight was about to land, that same picture I saw on the students' thing of Parmacharya came before me. I thought I was asleep, so I washed my face, with tissue paper. But that stuck in my mind that if I ever see him anywhere, I'll go and say namaste to him. But Parmacharya had obviously given blessings that this will happen. So that's how I succeeded in the emergency in doing this. Some months later, after Mrs. Gandhi lost the elections, the state assembly elections for Tamil Nadu was declared. So I was a star campaigner for the Janata Party. So I was touring. So I came by Kanchipuram. And outside Kanchipuram in a village area, there were lots of cars standing, very posh cars standing on the road. So I asked our Janata Party workers, why so many cars here in this village area? So they said, the Shankaracharya is sitting in his hut there and people are going there to get his blessing. So I said, you mean Chandrashekar Saraswati? They said, yes. So I said, stop the car, I want to go and say my namaste. So I went to his hut and he was sitting there giving darshan. And there was a big crowd when I moved in the front. And then the Parmacharya saw me. And he looked at me and then got up, turned his back and went inside the hut and shut the door. So I told him, it looks like the man is angry with me, so let's go. So I left and went to the car. Now that day I had to walk about 25 feet. As I reached the car, the Shastrigals, that is the Pujaris, they came running. Parmacharya is calling you. He wants you to come back. So I went back and he was sitting and then he asked me, in Tamil he said, that is, I didn't give you permission. How did you go away? So I said, I didn't know that I needed your permission. So he said, you came to see me and then after, without taking my permission, you leave. No, you can't do that. But now I'm giving you permission to leave. But before that, I will tell you, why did you go? So I said, you went away inside. I thought you don't like me. So that's why I went away. So all these pujaris are saying, you should talk like this to Parmacharya. So he made them quiet. He said, see, I went inside and I was looking for a press cutting. So the press cutting is here and he gave it to me. It was from the Indian Express and there was a photograph and a letter to the editor asking, is Subramanian Swamy a Tamil? And the answer was, yes, he's from Madurai, he's a Tamil. So he asked me, is this you? So I said, yes. He said, now you can go. So I forgot about it. But again, after about 2-3 months, I came to give a speech in Trichy. And on the way back, in Bangalore. And then we went to Chennai, and that route passes Kanchipuram. So I said, let me go and see. But they still there. When I went, there was again a crowd in the same place. And he asked all the crowd to go. So, there are many cinema stars and all. He said, no, go. And then I was alone with him. So then he began asking me, how is the Janata Party doing? And started. And that meeting lasted 2 hours. In that he gave me the first lesson on politics, on do's and don'ts in politics. First he told me, your job is not to go after any post. I said, why? I'm in politics, I can't go after post. No, because when you will get the post will come after you. And that's what I've been to Parliament 6 times, I've been a minister twice. I never knew it will be coming. Suddenly it came. So he said, you don't need a post. But when you need a post, the post will come to you. You don't go to the post. I was taken aback by that. I said, all right, if you say that. And since then I have never asked for a post. Even Parliament membership I have not asked. But suddenly it turns up and I get what I never expected. So I was a bit surprised, but anyway, he was God. By then I was convinced that he was God, because how could he know all these things? Then he told me, your policy should be to befriend Israel and China. So I said, Israel and China? Those days Israel was a very unpopular country in our, a popular nation in our country. People thought, especially because the Congress party thought that the Muslims would be annoyed. When he said, no, Israel and China. I said, China? They have taken away our land, how can we be friendly? No, you can be friendly. And you must be friendly. So I said, Israel, everybody will throw me out of the party. He said, no, nobody will throw out of the party. This is all conversation in Tamil. Then I said, all right. So that order of his I implemented, and I became very good friends of Israel, and even today very good friends of China. And because of that, many things which the government could not do, I was able to do because of my friendship. But one thing surprised me is the warmth of the Chinese. Because till that time, the Chinese would not accept that the Arunachal and Aksai Chin is even disputed. They said, no, it is ours. We have nothing to discuss. And after my meeting Parmacharya, I went to Delhi and I met Morarji Desai, who was the Prime Minister. And he told me, I've been thinking, you're a scholar, you have read also, you know about China and so many other countries. Why China is not accepting that Arunachal and Aksai Chin is disputed? So I said, because you don't talk to them. Why don't you talk to them? But in the back of my mind, I was saying that Parmacharya just a few days ago tells me that you talk to China, you make friends with China, and here Morarji Desai, who is the most anti-Chinese politician I know, suddenly tells me, why is China like this? So I told Morarji Desai, why don't you talk to the Chinese? He said, no, I don't want to talk to them, you talk to them. So I said, how I can go? I told him, I was that time only a member of Parliament. You give me a letter, I will go. He said, yes, I'll give you a letter. Tomorrow the letter will reach your office. So with that letter, I went to the Chinese embassy and they invited me. And I went to Beijing. All the top leaders received me. Nobody could believe this. I was the first time Lok Sabha MP, I was in my mid-30s, and people were surprised. And the worst affected people were the communists, because they were not invited, but I was invited by China to visit them. So I began by saying, that, we are a big country, you are a big country. Whatever has happened in 62 is another matter. But why can't you start improving relations by just saying that Aksai Chin is disputed, and this Arunachal is disputed, and we are willing to discuss this matter with India. You don't want to even discuss it, which means you want another military conflict. So the Chinese discussed amongst themselves, the leaders, and in the evening dinner which they hosted in my honor, they told me, you can tell your Prime Minister, we are ready to discuss the border issues and settle it by discussion, not by negotiation. So I came back, I informed Morarji Desai, he was very happy, then he asked Mr. Vajpayee to go, who was a foreign minister, and the talks began improving. One day in 1980, I was telling Morarji Desai just before he had given up his office, I said, you know, I have just discovered that Kailash Mansarovar is in Tibet and nobody is allowed to go there. Why not talk to the Chinese about it? He said, Chinese, they are communists, they don't believe in religion, so they'll never agree. He said, what's wrong with even talking about it? So he said, no, you go and waste your time if you want, but I don't think it is worth your time. They will never agree. So I went to Parmacharya. I went to Kanchipuram, and I said, you asked me to befriend China. I've opened relations between them. But now I want them to reopen Kailash Mansarovar. So Morarji Desai and others tell me it is impossible because they are communists. He said, why don't you just take a plane and go to Beijing and ask them, open Kailash Mansarovar, they'll open. I said, what, like that? He said, yes. So I went to Beijing and just to give a lecture at the Beijing University. Then I met the Chinese leaders and I told them, I want you to open Kailash Mansarovar. Now, they said, well, we don't know. I mean, the top leaders didn't know what Kailash and Mansarovar were. So they said, you give us 2 months and you come back again. By then, the Lok Sabha elections came, Mrs. Gandhi came back to power, and then, the Chinese re-invited me, I went back, and I told the Chinese that it's very important for us people, it's a pilgrimage spot, we have closed it, must reopen it. They said, we have investigated the whole thing, and we have come to the conclusions that we will open Kailash Mansarovar. But there is two conditions. I said, what are the 2 conditions? He said, first you must walk to Kailash Mansarovar. Because you have given us so much trouble, we have to find out, now we have to improve the roads and this and that. So you also have to suffer a little. So you promised that you will go first. So I said, certainly, but it's a lot of climbing, I'm not used to climbing so much. No, you have to go, so I agreed. Then he said, as the Chinese said, the second condition is only Hindus will be allowed, no Muslims and Christians. Now, if it was a Janata government, I could have got them to accept it, but this is Gandhi's government. So I came back, I met Mrs. Gandhi and I said, Kailash Mansarovar, I can get it open. There are 2 conditions the Chinese have put. I don't know whether your government will agree. She said, what are those conditions? So one is that I must go first. She said, that's not a problem. You go in the first delegation. Then I said, there's another condition, which may not suit your ideology. She said, what? I said, they say only Hindus will be allowed. So she became quiet. Then she said, if I say yes to that condition, will you tell the press about it? I said, no, I will tell the press. So she said, I agree to that. Even today, the Chinese told me, if the Muslims and Christians come, they'll come as tourists. What is the need for our country can't afford it, the security aspects. So it's only political. So it was agreed, and then after 6 months, the Chinese informed me, and so did my Ministry of External Affairs, that you can now go to Kailash. We will, with you, send about 19 other people who will accompany you. And I think it was the first opening to Tibet. So I think those 19 people were mostly intelligence people and all who wanted to see the lay of the land. So I agreed to go. Then I found out it means climbing, and it was end of August of 1981. It meant climbing up to 22,000 feet, and then go over a narrow pass and down into Tibet, and then again go. And all this walking. I never walked more than 1 or 2 kilometers for morning walk. I never thought I'll have to walk, and it was 140 kilometers of walking, and was spread over for 10 days, which meant 10 days going, 10 days coming, 2-3 days, almost a month. So, and anyway, I had given that as a condition, so I decided to go and see Parmacharya. I told him, see, all our people are scaring me, that they are all big cliffs, you will fall off, most people go there to die, so because they want to go to heaven, so if you go to Mansarovar and die on the way, you will go to heaven. All this they are saying, but I want to come back. So he said, no, you go. So I was relieved. Then I said, I have one more problem. Last year I was absent from my house during my birthday on a political tour. And I have 2 small girls as my children who I promised next birthday I'll definitely be in Delhi without fail. So let me this time don't mind. So I given this promise. Now the dates that the Chinese have given means that the 15th I will be just returning, and it will take 10 days more to come back. So I will miss my birthday. I will be reaching back from Mansarovar at around the 14th of September. My birthday is 15th September. So how can I disappoint my children? Shall I postpone my visit? He said, no, you go. I said, what about my birthday being in Delhi? So he said, you just go, we'll see. So I went, and it was a beautiful experience. And I've again gone this time in June last year. And Kailash is seeing is believing. It's absolutely divine. And since then, even though Prime Minister opened a new route with a motorable route, the Chinese have closed down that. But they have not closed down this. They have also informed me, we have closed your Prime Minister's route, but not your route. So don't get angry. So today you can still go via Pithoragarh and Garhwal and to Mansarovar. Now when I came back, when I reached the border on the way back from Mansarovar, it was 14th September. I crossed, and then there was a camp. So in that camp, I was made to stop. Now I was wondering what Parmacharya told me, no, nothing will happen. Now I am sitting here. Then there was a military base, that place. A military man came running with a telex. And I looked at the telex. Telex said, the Prime Minister has authorized a helicopter to come and fetch you from that place, it was called Kalapani, and bring you back to Delhi. So, on the 14th night, I arrived in Delhi by helicopter, not having to walk down. Who could do this but So from this 1977 till 1 month before his Samadhi, I used to meet him regularly. He used to explain to me political ideology. I think I have not known anyone. He was obviously God. He told me, you are very critical of Soviet Union. Why? I said, they are already in Afghanistan, tomorrow they'll come to Pakistan, they will come to India. So he said, no, nothing like that will happen. There will be no Soviet Union. I said, Soviet Union? This is in 1982, 81. He said to me, there will be no Soviet Union. He said, no, you don't talk about them. Don't waste your time criticizing Soviet Union. So in 1990, Soviet Union broke up into 16 countries. There's no Soviet Union today. Only Russia is there. And others are Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan and Ukraine and so on. How did he know this? If I had told anywhere in the world that Soviet Union is going to break up, people would have thought I was mad. It was such a powerful united country, people thought, but it broke up. So on so many other political issues, he had been informing me, telling me whenever I used to meet him. I also went to once he went to Satara. So I went in, part of the way I walked with him. And he was showing me, see this monument is this old. I mean, he seemed to know everything, the entire history. And he wanted that to be renovated. I think now he had ordered at that time a Shiva Mandir to be built in Satara. And probably it's being built. So, like that, he asked me, I asked him one day that why is Hindu society divided? So he says Hindu society is divided because of this last 1,000-year history. Correct history must be written. Then I studied history, and that's how I come to the conclusion that most of the history that we have is bogus, written by Britishers. There's no such thing as Aryan, there's no such thing as Dravidian as a community or as a race. Dravida is a word which comes out of a sandhi of tra and vid, which literally means South India, where the three coasts meet. Arya is the word Arya is there is no word Aryan. But the British made out, the whole of India was full of Dravidians, and then was ruled by Dravidian, and then from Europe came the Aryans through Afghanistan and the Khyber Pass, and then beat up the Dravidians and drove them south. And today we have a political party in Tamil Nadu called Dravida Munnetra Kazhagam, and which says, no, we are different from Northerners, and this division has been planted in the minds. So he told me that this is bogus history, and now I've been able to prove it's bogus history. Because the DNA, modern DNA studies now show all Indians from Kanyakumari to Kashmir, from Jamnagar to Dibrugarh, they have the same DNA. Whether it's a Hindu or a Muslim or a Christian, they all have the same DNA, which means that Muslims and Christians are also, their ancestors were Hindus. And if the Muslims and Christians accept this, then we'll all become one family. They say, no, we have come, Muslims say Gori and Ghazni is our ancestors. And that is not true. They should either show the DNA is the same as Gori and Ghazni, which they can't. So, and in the Ram temple matter, he one day told me, do you know Shahabuddin? I said, yes, he's a good friend of mine. You call him here. So I said, call him here to the mutt. He said, yes, I want to talk. So I brought him, and he told, when Shahabuddin saw Parmacharya, you'll be surprised, the most militant Muslim leader, he started weeping. And started saying, Parmacharya, please save this country, let us all be united. I asked Shahabuddin afterwards, you breathe fire in press conferences, but before Parmacharya, you are weeping. What is the problem? How did this happen? He said, no, you see, I saw divinity in his face and I couldn't stop my tears. And this solution that we are now heading towards through the Supreme Court, the idea that Ram temple must be built where faith tells us he was born, and that a mosque can be built anywhere else, because mosque is only a place to read namaz. It is not a religious place in the sense of a temple. Temple, because of the prana pratishtha puja, the deity enters the idol and becomes the owner of the temple, and everybody else can only be trustees. They cannot be owners. And I proved this for all the places in England, in their House of Lords hearing, when a Nataraja statue was taken away from a disused temple in Tanjavur by smugglers paying the gatekeeper 25,000 rupees only. And they were auctioning it for 5 crores in London, in a Sotheby auction. And the High Commissioner informed our government. That time Chandrashekar was Prime Minister and I was not only Commerce Minister but as Law Minister. So as Law Minister I sent people. We argued this Prana Pratishtha point, that once Prana Pratishtha puja is done according to Agama Shastras, a temple is always a temple, whether it is being worshipped and whether it is in use or disuse and so on. And therefore there was a Ram temple, we all know that. And that Ram temple, Archaeological Survey of India had, on the direction of the Supreme Court, investigated and said where the Babri Masjid stood, below it there is a base, a foundation of a very large temple, and its materials like pillars and so on were used to construct the Babri Masjid. And then the great son of Andhra, Narasimha Rao as Prime Minister, told the Supreme Court by way of affidavit that if it is ever shown that there was a pre-existing temple and then only after that a Babri Masjid was constructed, then we will hand over the land to the Hindus. And I think that is why Narasimha Rao should be considered as a person who not only brought us economic reforms, but he tried to protect the heritage of our country. And I hope the Prime Minister, Mr. Narendra Modi, will listen to my suggestion that the next Republic Day he should get Bharat Ratna. Now you see, how do we worship Parmacharya now? I would not say that, yes, his body is gone, but he permeates the atmosphere. And even today, whenever I have a difficult problem, I get up at 4 a.m. in the morning and meditate on him, and I always find some solution. In this Ram temple matter, the dispute so far was on property. The Sunni Waqf board says that Babar captured this property and therefore it is a Waqf property now. It belongs to the Muslims. They don't say that there was a masjid and that masjid should be rebuilt. No, this Sunni Waqf board's petition says that this property belongs to the Sunni Waqf board. And the Hindu parties like the Akhadas and the Ram Janmabhoomi Nyaya Samiti, they say we were trustees of a temple, Ram temple, our ancestors, and therefore it should be returned to us. So the matter was lying for 7 years without being heard. It took 16 years for Allahabad High Court to hear it. And then they gave a judgment, largely in favor of the Hindus, but it was not acceptable to the Muslim community, so they appealed to the Supreme Court. Now in the Supreme Court for 7 years, there was no hearing, and neither party wanted to accelerate it. So I meditated one day on Parmacharya. I said, how do I get it? Because I'm not a party. I didn't have a temple there. So I only can worship, that's all I can do. Then the thought entered my mind, why not I say to the Supreme Court, these people are fighting for only property. Whereas I want my fundamental right to pray where Ram was born, where faith tells me Ram was born. And that is a fundamental right according to Article 25. So I went to the Supreme Court and I said, these people are fighting for property, I'm not concerned with that. Give me my fundamental rights, which is today blocked. And I gave reasons for it. The court was so impressed, they said, why don't you become a party in the main matter? I said, how can I don't have any property interests. They said, no, it doesn't matter, we will direct the court that you be made also party, you can argue. So that is how I have entered the Ram Temple matter, and I have to thank Parmacharya for this. One more incident I'll give you, and then I'll try to conclude by giving some general issues that arise from the writings of Parmacharya.
Sorry for interrupting you. In fact, Article 25 was there in the Constitution because of Parmacharya's instruction only.
Oh, okay. Now I've been told that Article 25 was included by the Constituent Assembly on the suggestion of Parmacharya itself. See, one day...
So he has given you a vitamin B.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, an additional vitamin. Yeah. One day, you see, fishermen from Tamil Nadu, Ramanathapuram, they came to me saying that we are not allowed to fish in an island called Kachativu. Kachativu was originally part of India, but Mrs. Gandhi decided to give it to the Sri Lanka, so on the condition that fishermen can go and rest on that island between India and Sri Lanka called Kachativu. And they can dry their nets there and so on. And so therefore, that facility should be there. It was part of the agreement. But Sri Lanka was not honoring that. And anyway, any police fishermen came, they were arresting them. So they came to me. So I said, okay, I will get hold of a boat and you all follow me, and I like to see how Sri Lanka will arrest me. So then we land there to establish a point. So they all agreed. I announced it. M.G. Ramachandran was the chief minister. So I landed in Madurai to go to Rameshwaram, and then to and then from Rameshwaram to go to not Rameshwaram, to Ramanathapuram coast, and then take a boat and go to Kachativu. Now, what happened is, as soon as I landed in Madurai, M.G. Ramachandran arrested me and put me in a 5-star hotel and said, till you promise to go back to Delhi, I will not let you go. So I waited for one day, then I got bored, and so I said, okay, I will go back to Delhi. So I went to Madras to go to Delhi, and Madras had some spare time, so I said, let me go and see Parmacharya. So I went and saw him. I told him I did this and all that, and this is what M.G. Ramachandran has done. So he said, oh, he did like that. You go to Supreme Court and file a petition. So I said, you want me to file a petition for arrest in Madurai in Supreme Court? He said, yes. You go and file it in Supreme Court. So I came, my wife is a lawyer, I am not a lawyer, I studied law but I didn't take a degree. I wanted to be an economist. So I told my wife, please draft a petition for, in the Supreme Court, saying that my fundamental rights were violated by being arrested and all that. So my wife said, are you crazy? For a police action, you go to the lower magistrates court first, then go to the sessions court, then come to the high court, then come to the Supreme Court. Come straight to the Supreme Court, they will laugh at you. They will fine you. I can't do it. I feel ashamed when they rebuke you in court. I said, see, Parmacharya has said that I should file a case in Supreme Court. I am not ready to listen to any argument. You either draft it. Don't come to court on that day so that you don't feel any sense of shame. But to file it for me. So she filed. But anyway, as a loyal wife, she came to the court also. And we were sitting waiting for the judge to come, Justice Venkatramaiah from Karnataka, he was Supreme Court judge, very, very superb judge. So he came and he sat down. Before he came, all these lawyers were asking me, why have you come, why have you come? So I told him this. He said, what? You come for this, you'll get they will impose cost on you. They will make fun of you. Why are you doing this? Don't do it. Withdraw it, quietly go away. So I said, no, I've been told by the highest authority. So when my petition was called, the government Attorney General and Solicitor General stood up and said this petition is an insult to the Supreme Court. An arrest takes place and he is not put to any inconvenience, he put in a 5-star hotel. And therefore, to come here to the Supreme Court, then every police complaint, people will come to the Supreme Court. They'll make a laughing stock of the Supreme Court. So please dismiss this immediately. Now I don't know what happened to Justice Venkatramaiah that day. He said, why? Why was he arrested in the first place? So he said, no, he is under danger from LTTE. So to prevent the LTT from, killing him on his way to Kachatipu, we wanted to protect him. He said, what? To protect him, you arrest him. You go and arrest the LTT people. So these Attorney General was shocked. What is this behavior of the judge? No, he says, this is not the way. Tomorrow you will say judges of Supreme Court also cannot go to Kachatipu. I mean, where will you draw the line? This trend I don't like. I want you to give me an explanation. So the Attorney General said, we will take instructions from the government and come back. Please give us 2 days time. So for 2 days it was adjourned. They went and told Rajiv Gandhi, he was the Prime Minister then, I'm talking of 1988, and said that this is the thing and the court is getting very upset. So Rajiv Gandhi said, don't worry, tell them that he can go and we'll give him protection. So they came back the next day and said, Dr. Swamy can go to Kachatipu and we'll give full protection. So, my work was done. I was shocked, but I said, this is not my doing, it is Parmacharya's doing. Nobody thought this could ever happen, but it happened. Now, I went back to Kachatipu, and what do I see? There is no question of just protection. The battleships of the Indian Navy, the Air Force, everybody is there. And I was accompanied in royal fashion. And the Sri Lankan government also said, why is Swamy getting so angry with us? He is welcome to Sri Lanka also. And we have never stopped him. It is his chief minister who stopped him. Now see, how do I describe this? That on a matter on what can be proceeded against in Supreme Court, the Parmacharya says, do it, put it in Supreme Court. So today when people ask me, you are not afraid of anybody, why? Because whenever there is any doubt, I think of Parmacharya, and that's why I have never any problem. I've rarely lost a case. Whenever I have taken a difficult task, I have thought of Parmacharya, even now. And he is everywhere. His body may not be here, but he is everywhere. And therefore, it was a great privilege, as our chairman just now said, that it is in our lifetime we could see. He was always at a smiling face. He was ready. He knew already what was in my mind. There were so many problems, small problems of politics, which he would answer. He never ever hesitated. And somehow, I think anyone who didn't come for himself, I mean, I didn't come to ask for my promotion or my transfer or something like that, which many people had come. I'd come for national problems. And today, because of my relations with China and my relations with Israel, all over the world there is great recognition and respect for it. How can a man who's anti-communist be friends with China? Even today, the Chinese have just invited me 2 days ago to come to in the winter to a place in northern China where they build palaces out of ice, which is a world wonder to see, despite all our bad relations. And I think Parmacharya had something in mind when he said, you must be friends with China. And being divine, you don't question. And it was a great sorrow when Jayendra Saraswati was arrested. There is this conspiracy against Hindu religion which we must wake up to. One thing he told me, always work for the unity of Hindus. Because 800 years Hindus have been fighting, first against the Muslims, then 200 years against the British who were really Christians. And we haven't had time to further develop our religion. So what he used to call as Marumalarchi, which means Renaissance. And that, you see, is what we should work at. He said that this Varna system is only birth-based to the extent that you are Jnani and Tyagi. If you are not Jnani and Tyagi, you cannot be a Brahmin. It doesn't matter in which family you are born in. If you become a Jnani and Tyagi, you become. So to unite the Hindu nation has become, he kept saying, when we became independent, he was interviewed in 1947, August. Parmacharya was interviewed by the All India Radio. And what did he say? He said, we have got freedom today, but we have still to get independence. And that is the truth. Our mental independence is still not come. We still worry about today. Just 2 days ago, there was some foreign scientist who said, Rama Setu is man-made. Everybody is celebrating. But I have fought a case in the Supreme Court, and in that I produced proofs by Indian geologists who said it is man-made because the top portion of the Ram Setu is made out of corals. That means fish bones, shells, all these things fuse into a rock. They look like a rock, but they are not a rock. And they are found only on the coast. They are not found in the middle of the ocean. So how did it come in the middle of the ocean? Because somebody has brought it there. And these corals float. If you read Valmiki Ramayana, he says that Hanuman was harassed when these stones started floating. Then he wrote Ram on it, and then they settled down. So whatever is there in Valmiki is there on the ground there. Now, of course, the Supreme Court I won the case, and the government is going to announce. I am hoping that the government will announce in the first week of January that we will not touch Ram Setu. We are scrapping the Setu Samudra project. Only when I was arguing, one of the judges called Justice Ravindran, he asked me, one question you have to ask you. How is it? How do you expect us to believe that you will go to the middle of the ocean to worship the Ram Setu? So why are you so keen on it? I said, Justice Ravindran, every morning I worship Surya Bhagwan, but I don't go to Surya and come back. And I never thought a judge by the name of Ravindran will ask me this question.
Joke of the day.
Huh?
Joke of the day.
Don't. So therefore, I am saying today that this country was a land of devtas who came either as avatars or they came as people who were godlike, and we are blessed in this. No other country will you find such human beings as we find in our country. So let us celebrate our saints, and let us celebrate our religion, and while we are not against anybody, Hindu religion itself thinks that all religions lead to God. But at the same time, these 1,000 years where we were suppressed, they have to be changed, they have to be modernized, they have to be restored, and for that, the unity of Hindus is very important. And this is the message that I finally got in the final stages from Parmacharya. Thank you very much.
Don't worry. Even Nagamadum Devam is with you.
What he said till now.